I wanted to come on here and go ahead and share my journey on how I went from walking around selling bracelets at 14 years old to now building a multi-million-dollar business at 21 years old. My number one goal of this channel is to provide you guys with so much value. I also know there are so many people right now, maybe you're in high school, maybe you're in your early 20s or even 30s or even higher, that know you're called for more. And my goal is to inspire as many people as possible and to show you guys that everything is possible. It doesn't matter how old you are or what anyone says. The biggest driving factor, in actually succeeding in something is your willingness to learn, your willingness to succeed, and your willingness to actually put in the work, despite all the effort, the controversy, and all the actual roadblocks that you're going to go through your entire journey. So as a quick introduction, my name is Evan Hovich. I am a 7-figure entrepreneur. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and spent my high school years out in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm currently residing in Austin, Texas. Spent the last about year and a half just traveling the world, seeing different things, and now I have settled in Austin, Texas. So before we start talking about my actual journey into actually building a 7-figure business, first we got to develop into the why. So why did I actually want to start a business? Why not follow the normal 9-to-5 route, go to college, graduate college, get your piece of paper, go get yourself a job, and go, retire, live off the government for the rest of your life? The reason I didn't want to do that is for a multitude of reasons. Number one is because you can't actually build true freedom working for someone else. It doesn't matter even if you're in the top 1% earning, $400 or $500K a year. You don't have that time freedom. You don't have that location freedom. You still have a boss. That's number one. You cannot actually control your own destiny. As an entrepreneur, if you bring home $500K that month, it's also on you. If you're $200,000 in debt that month, that's also on you. There's nobody to run to. There's nobody to blame. There's nobody that, you can essentially lean back on besides, friends, mentors. But at the end of the day, it's your responsibility. It's full actual accountability. And I knew that I was called for more. Another reason is around the time of high school, my family started to go through really intense financial struggles, family struggles, and I just didn't want to live a life where I had a struggle. I didn't want to live a life where I worried. I walked outside one time to my mom counting pennies, and I realized that we live in the greatest country in the world where you can actually create freedom for yourself. You can build a business. You can create the American dream, whatever that means to you. To me, what it means is a free market economy. To me, it means building something of actual value that you can change not only your life, but generations to come and your actually family's outcome. I knew that I had to be the man of the household. I knew that my sisters and my mother need to be taken care of, my grandma needs to be taken care of, and at the end of the day, I'm the man in the family. And I know that if something goes down, it's on me to fix. And as a man of the household, I grew up with a single mother. It is your responsibility as a man to take care of your family and provide. And I'm a strong believer in that. Which leads me to my next point of your why. Why do you do everything? When you're starting out in entrepreneurship and you're starting a new business, if you don't actually have a driving factor pushing you, giving you no option to fail, there's no point of even getting started. Because once you get started, you're going to encounter some of the most stressful things that you haven't even imagined that you would ever encounter in your life, because running a business is difficult. Being an entrepreneur is very difficult. It's not like you could just go into your 9-to-5 and leave for the rest of the day and have nothing to worry about. When you have a why, when you have a reason pushing you for doing what you want to do, failure is not an option. Quitting is not an option. You have no choice but to actually succeed. However long that takes, that journey to be successful is a non-negotiable. So now let's actually dive into my journey on how I became a 7-figure entrepreneur at 21 years old. So how did I start? At 14 years old, I knew I needed to make money. I knew I needed to pay some bills. I started making bracelets. Yes, I started making bracelets. I got made fun of. Who cares? I did care at 14 years old, but I needed money and I wanted money, and I cared more about money than actually getting made fun of. So I got myself some rainbow loom kits and some beaded bracelet kits. I would go ahead and I would make the bracelets, and I would have my grandma drive me around, and I would walk house to house to house to house selling bracelets. This went on and off from 14 to 15 years old, and I would say I made a few grand doing it. I was hustling and bustling, not really taking no for an answer, but that was the beginning. to my journey at 14 years old. Then I got a job at Jimmy John's, a sandwich making place. I worked there for about a month, and a family member at the time would not let me go into work, and I got fired after a month. So that was the end of my Jimmy John's journey. I hated it. I hated making sandwiches, especially for other people, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Then when I was 15 years old, around 2018 to 2019, I started a marketing agency, a social media marketing agency, just like every other 15, 16-year-old kid does. So I met a friend who is my best friend now at DECA. DECA is a business club in school. I met him on a bus ride to the national competition. We spent the 10-hour bus ride building out a business plan on how we're gonna start our marketing agency when we get back. We knocked doors, we cold called, we went restaurant to restaurant to restaurant. We did everything we can to get our first possible client, and nothing was happening. So we kept going, we kept going, we kept going. Then we finally landed one. We landed in an Italian restaurant in Charlotte, North Carolina. We walked in there and we walked out with a $5,000 contract. That was the start of Coveted Marketing Group. That was the name of our business at that time. I was so excited. I was 15 years old. I thought I was on top of the world. I was like, I'm rich. I just made $5K and that was it. We tried that business for a couple more months. My business partner, unfortunately, did not put much work into. We laugh about it now. He's my best friend now. Also running a very successful business. But I decided to end terms, start my own marketing agency called Hovich Marketing Group. And if you knew me from high school and you're watching this video, I'm sure you're laughing because I used to get made fun of for Hovich Marketing Group, but I didn't care. So Hovich Marketing Group begins. I was doing the same thing. I was hustling. I had a little bit more experience in actually fulfilling the service. I was getting clients, I was hustling. I was also making websites for people. I scaled it to about 3 to 5K a month, but that was kind of my threshold at that age. I was literally doing everything I can, taking on every single possible client. Clients were not happy, some were happy, but that was my first taste of actually running a business. I was making some type of income, I was hustling, I was doing everything I can to possibly make money, and it was going okay. Then into the age of 16 years old, I continued Hovich Marketing Group. I had severe shiny object syndrome. If you don't know what that is, that's going business to business to business, right? The next best thing, chasing the next best thing. Nothing's ever good enough. You never actually see anything through and finish everything through. So I was experiencing that. I started a online print-on-demand clothing brand, which I actually made $6,000 in 1 month off of, and then I quit because it was too hard. I continued with Hovich Marketing Group. I never really scaled. I kept in that 3 to 5K a month threshold, and I did that for pretty much the entire year up until I was about 17 years old. So this leads me into the year of about 2020 to 2021. I was 17 years old. My family was going through a lot of financial difficulty. It was a very toxic environment. I did not want to be there anymore. I knew I had to move out into my own apartment, which I did at 17 years old. I worked extremely hard, hustled more than I've ever hustled. I pretty much stopped hanging out with all of my friends. I cut off my social circle completely, and all I focused on was building my business. I scaled Hovich Marketing Group to about $10,000 a month. I bought my first car. I thought I was on top of the world. I thought I was the man. My ego was through the roof. I was like, man, I'm a 17-year-old kid. I'm making 10K a month. I can do anything. I was spending money left and right. My ego was just through the roof, and I got a quick reality check. My business wasn't doing so well. My clients were not very happy. I wasn't necessarily fulfilling up to my potential, and that was going pretty well. I even scaled to about 15 to 20K a month for a few months, but I was right in that 10 to 15K a month range for most of that year, and that was the year I actually graduated high school. So was doing pretty good for myself. Pretty much had no social life. That was my entire senior year pretty much. It was COVID year. I was just working, doing whatever I can to make money. Looking back now, I think my biggest thing that I wish I was the word humbled. I learned a lot since then. Obviously that was a long time ago for me, and I just thought I was super cool. That was when I was 17 years old. That was my journey. I built a pretty nice business for myself. Then it all came. I was debating whether I wanted to go to college or not. I was so sick of working. I've been working since I was 14 years old. I just wanted to have fun. I just wanted to go do stupid things, go party, go drink, go do drugs, not the hard ones, but I just wanted to go really enjoy my college life. So this is exactly what I did. I went to Appalachian State University, and when I got there, I called all my clients and I told them, I don't want to work for you anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done with business. I'm quitting. I'm throwing in the towel. F this. So Went to college, I did exactly that. I was paying for my school as well. I blew through my entire savings. My grandpa actually died probably about 3 months in to my college experience, which took a massive toll on me. Kept drinking, kept partying, and when the semester came around, I look back at it, I probably attended a total of 1 class a week, maybe if that, and I just knew that this wasn't for me. This was not the route I wanted to go to, and I was completely broke. I went from making 10, 15, 20K a month to going absolutely completely broke. So I dropped out of college and I moved in with my dad in Florida. So I'm 18 years old at this point, and I go to Florida to live with my dad in Miami. I'm 18 years old, it's January, I go live with my dad in Florida. The next 5 months for me are absolute hell. I have the worst shiny object syndrome, I'm dabbling into meme coins, I'm trying to figure out what to do. I dive back into marketing, but my heart's not really in it. I'm basically trying all these NFTs, all these different businesses, I'm making money, and then I'm losing it all day trading cryptocurrency, and my life is just awful at this point. I'm extremely depressed, I gained a bunch of weight, I hated my life. I hate using the word depression just because I do believe that people get depressed, but it's something that you can either choose to stay in or do your best to try to get out of. And I kind of at that point just accepted it. I was trying every day to figure out a new business, and all I desired and all I cared about and all I envied was money. How in the world am I going to make money? And my dad used to come and wake me up every single morning, get up, go do something. He used to just all day, and I felt awful. I had absolutely no money. I couldn't even pay for the parking in Miami to park my car, and my account overdrafted probably every other day. And it was a really brutal time in my life because I had a bunch of money saved up and I blew through everything. And I always look back like, oh, what if I didn't do that? What if I didn't drop all my clients? What if I just didn't go to college? But the reality is you can't change the past. Your decisions are your decisions, and you need to accept them. So January through about May, I believe, I was in Florida, couldn't figure anything out. I was building projects, building cryptocurrencies, building communities, and nothing was working. I'm still broke, extremely broke. Then around May time, me and my dad actually got into a pretty bad fight, and I went back to my comfort zone, and my comfort zone was my grandma's house. So I packed up all my stuff in Florida, and I drove my ass 2 days later to go live with my grandma again. Get to my grandma's house, and I fell back in my comfort zone. I had meals cooked for me every day. I didn't necessarily feel that urge. I kind of just got complacent. And even though I was broke and I had absolutely no money, I was just pretty complacent in my life. So then I was at my grandma's house for probably about 6 months, and I started to rebuild my life again. I started to rebuild my marketing agency. I was probably doing about 10K a month. I was making money, I was investing, but I still felt complacent. I was doing what was in my comfort zone. My heart was not in there. I felt like I needed structure. I didn't know how to truly build a business, and I was constantly so stubborn to the fact of working for someone else. I always thought I can do everything myself. I can figure it out. I don't need to work for anyone. I don't need to build anyone else's pockets. I'm good. In that mindset, I actually saw a video one day online, and the video was discussing a remote cleaning business. I was like, what is a remote cleaning business? Watched a couple of YouTube videos online, and the business model made so much sense to me. So I was like, okay, I'm currently making about 10K a month in my agency, but I want to do something else. I'm sick of it. My heart's not in it. I want to actually build a business. A day later, after watching those videos on a remote cleaning business, I started a remote cleaning business. This was my life. I put every single second I had into building this business. I hit over $20,000 in my first 30 days, and I was on top of the moon. I was like, this is my way out. This is the business. I know I can do this. I know I can sell over the phone. And everything made sense to me. Everybody needs cleaning services. So I scaled it up really, really quickly. I scaled it to over 30K a month in the first 90 days consistently. And I pretty much automated my business. I hired a VA, and she overtook all my operations, and I was cash flowing really nice for myself, and I kept scaling and growing. So at this point, I was pretty hands off of my cleaning business, but I still felt like I lacked that structure. I still felt that I needed guidance. I needed to learn from somebody that has done exactly what I want to do, and that's build a massive business. I wanted to learn from somebody that has built a team. I needed to learn leadership. So I put my ego away, and I was blessed enough to receive an opportunity to go close on an offer called Direct Deals, led by Josh Rivera, who is one of my best friends now to this day. And Josh gave me an opportunity to close on his offer. I closed on his offer for about 8 months while still running my cleaning business, as it was pretty much automated. I closed well over $1 million for him. I was the number one closer. Every single month I was there, and I was closing near 40%. So being in that operation, I learned a lot. We had team meetings every single day. I got to learn the back end. I got to learn what sales structure looks like instead of just BSing everything I was saying. I actually understood what building a business looks like. Putting my ego to the side and working for Josh turned out to be the best decision of my entire life. And it made me realize, like looking back on it, why are our egos so high? Why do we feel that way? Maybe it's, I'm a man, I don't need to learn from anyone, I can figure this out. But people, and this is why I have a mentorship program today, people need people. People need to learn from other people. There are people out there that have done exactly what you want to do. Why do you want to make it hard for yourself and try to figure it out when you could just skip the exact steps and just learn from somebody that is exactly where you want to be? And that's exactly what I did. I guarantee you, to this day, I would not have a 7-figure business right now if it wasn't for Josh and joining that company. So Josh, if you're watching this, shout out to you, man. So worked at Direct Deals for probably about 8 months. So in that time frame, I moved to Charleston, South Carolina. I was making a bunch of money on my cleaning business. I was making probably $20K a month closing on Josh's offer, and I was doing really well for myself. I was probably cash flowing every single month for myself, probably about minimum $40K a month. I had higher months than that. I would also do some consulting on the side. I had a bunch of different things going on. I had some months where I was making 50, 60K a month at that point. I was 19 going into 20 years old during that time frame. After that, I was about 20 years old and I quit working for Josh. I really appreciated the experience. I just knew I got what I wanted out of that experience and I was called for more. I was making a bunch of money, had a bunch of money in the bank. I was able to buy my mom a car, which I'll show you above right here. That to me was the greatest gift I could have given is helping my mom get a car. She didn't actually have a car for 5 entire years before that, and she was just driving my grandma's car. So that was truly awesome for me, to give back, after years of hard work. And that goes back to my why, right? Like, why do you do the things you do? And for me, it was taking care of the ones I love, right? Helping my sister out with her apartment, helping my mom out, helping with bills, helping my sister, helping my grandma. And when you can give back like that and you can do that and you could be so fortunate to be able to do those things, I felt like that was my calling in that certain time period of my life, was to be able to give back to my family, which is an incredible feeling. So then I have all this experience, I'm making money, I sell my cleaning business. I actually exited out of my remote cleaning business. It was the first time I ever sold the company. I was 20 years old. I thought I was on top of the world. I was so happy. I had all this money in my bank account that I've never seen before. And yeah, I went to go chill for a little bit. So I started to travel, started spending more money, bought myself a Mercedes. I thought I was good. I thought I was chilling, and I was, but obviously you need to get back to work. So I traveled to Bali, Indonesia, to a place called the Bali Time Chamber. If you haven't checked out the Bali Time Chamber and you're a man, 100% recommend. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. So I went to Bali, Indonesia, and I spent 3 weeks there. And my goal for going to Bali was to figure out my next steps. I was 20 years old and I was trying to figure out what the next chapter was. And I really couldn't figure it out. I wanted to start a coaching program because I knew I could help people build their remote cleaning business, but I never wanted to be a coaching guy. So one of my buddies came to me. His name is Jonathan. He was actually the first student of RCI, Remote Cleaning Institute, my company now. And he was like, bro, I don't want to work my 9 to 5 anymore. I want to build a business, but I don't know how. Can you help me? So he found a business partner. Her name is Josh, and I charged them $3,000 to help them build a remote cleaning business. It turned out to be extremely successful. They were super grateful. It was an incredible experience. And I felt like I found my calling in business. Something I struggled with for a long time was fulfillment. Fulfillment was extremely difficult for me. It didn't matter how much money I was making. I wanted to actually truly be happy and fulfilled in what I was doing. And helping somebody make money and helping somebody break free of their life, of their imprisonment in their 9 to 5, and create that life for their family that they're trying to create. I thought this was the best thing in the entire world. So Johnny was my dummy rabbit, and it turned out to be super successful. So I went back to Charleston and I decided I was going to take this business full force. I was going to take it super seriously, and this was going to be it. So I rented out an office space in Charleston and I set out a goal. It was, I believe, September, and on September 1st, I got a whiteboard, and on that whiteboard, I wrote I was going to hit $80,000 that month. Fast forward to September 26th, and we were at $82,000 for the month. I put a picture right here of the board when I took the picture. I felt awesome. I felt that I finally found a business where I can make a bunch of money and I can truly help people achieve their dreams. And the rest is history. Remote Cleaning Institute has done multiple $100,000+ months, and then we are a $1 million business. And the journey was a lot. The journey was tough, the journey was difficult, but the biggest takeaway from this entire journey was the fact that I believed in myself from day one. I had a big enough reason pushing me to be able to succeed, and I knew I was going to figure it out. Through that 7-year-old span, from selling bracelets at 14 to now having a 7-figure business, I ate so much crap in between. I was up, I was down, my ego was high, my ego was low, I was fat, I was depressed, I was happy, I was sad, and all of that was part of it. Every single lesson, every single thing I did turned out to be a learning experience for myself. And I would not be the man I am today without all those trials, without all those tests, without all those errors, and surrounding myself with people that are where I want to be, surrounding myself with people that aren't going to only be my friend, people that are going to push me to excel and be the best version of myself that I can possibly be. Because who really are your friends if all they want to do is drink with you, if all they want to do is go out with you? If you cannot get past a surface level conversation with somebody, are they really your friend? A relationship is more than just a conversation and going out with someone and being fun. A relationship is, can you actually get deep with someone? Can you push each other? Can you hold each other accountable? And closing in my circle and getting rid of all the distractions, cutting off the people in my life that weren't bettering me, was also an incredible decision by myself, because even though it's difficult to say bye to the ones that you love and the ones that you care about, if somebody is not benefiting you, then what are they doing for you? You're either going up or you're going down. There's no such thing as staying stagnant. And now running an operation where I have a team of 10 people, I have to be a leader now. It's not just myself. It's not just my income and my family's mouths I have to feed. It's other people's, right? Other people's families rely on their income for my business. So you need to be a great leader. You need to be somebody that people can come to for questions, for help, for guidance, and they have that full trust in you. That was my experience from the time I was 14 to now. I'm extremely grateful for everything that has happened to me along the entire journey. If I actually went over every single detail, this video would never end, but I wanted to really highlight the important parts and to show you guys, to anybody watching that's, in a position where they feel that, they can't do it or they want to do it, but they don't know where to start. Just start. Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis where you're constantly gaining information, you're constantly trying to figure out, but you're never actually taking action. If you never take action, nothing in your life will change, and you're just going to be in that hamster wheel forever. The amount of people that I speak to that are 40s, 50s, 60s, working the same job for 30, 40 years, and they feel like they've wasted their whole lives. They miss the baseball games, they miss the tennis matches, they miss the practices, they miss everything in their family's life, not even including their own life. Now is a time better than ever to build your own destiny. There's nothing that's stopping you besides yourself. And if you want to use the excuses you come from nothing, I grew up with a single mom in a very crappy apartment in Brooklyn, New York, okay? I did not come from money. I walked out to counting pennies, okay? I moved out of my house when I was 17 years old. So this is not a I can do it, you can do it type of situation, but anyone can do it. You're provided with the opportunities in this country to be able to do whatever you want. You just need to want it bad enough. You need to put yourself in the right rooms. The point of this channel is to provide as much value as possible. So this was just an intro video talking to you guys a little bit about my journey and why I started and what was pushing me and how much crap I ate in the entire process and what it has led to. So I hope this even touches one of you, and if it does, I would really appreciate a comment below, just to tell me a little bit about your experience. I would love to connect with every single person that I possibly can and just have a conversation. We're all here to grow, we're all here to make more money, we're all here to provide value to this world, and we're all here to provide value to each other. I really appreciate everyone who took this time to actually watch this video. It means a lot to me, and I'll definitely be blasting out more content. If you want to throw it in the comments what you want me to talk about, whether it's sales, marketing, operations, if you want me to interview some people, bring some people on, tell you more about my individual experiences, I would love to do that for you guys. So go ahead and drop that in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to be trying to post a lot more content for you guys. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.